Hello, everyone. It's Jackie Thornton with Leading Age Georgia and the Georgia Institute on Aging. We are glad to convene the GAP webinar on Reminiscence, the Power of the Talk, with Anthony Vicari. He's joining us today, and we are really delighted, all the way from the West Coast. I just want to give you just a little bit of an overview. I wanted to let you know this session will last for about 45 minutes. And there will be opportunity to ask questions. This is pre-recorded, but we want to let you know that those of you who are online live with us today, that the last 15 minutes of the session will open for questions and answers. And if you have any particular questions that you want to ask our speaker this afternoon, and you want to get that in and don't want to forget, you can go ahead and type it into the chat section. Click on Select Recipient, and you can click Co-Presenters, or you can send it out to everyone in the group, and then to the right, you'll click Send. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce Anthony Vicari. He is a certified dementia care trainer. He's an activity consultant, board-certified activity director, and education specialist. He is an active educator in today's healthcare profession. He's teaching all over the nation. He currently serves as a professional development trustee for the National Association of Activity Professionals. He is nationally certified, again, I mentioned activity consultant, board certified. He has just a plethora of offerings in terms of continuing education. It spans from dementia care training to dementia care practitioner. He's just done so many things in terms of the eating alternative, which is near and dear to us, and we've done a lot. He is actually a certified eating alternative trainer. He has been in this business for 34 years. We are really, really fortunate to have him join us, and he's going to share a little bit more about what is new and very interesting for you all to know about something that's on the horizon. That's coming up in terms of his repertoire of continuing education. And so without further ado, I'll hand it over to Anthony.
Good afternoon, everybody. How is everybody doing in the wonderful state of Georgia?
Wonderful.
Well,
hello.
I am so excited, and I can see all y'all's names, and I lived in Georgia for 1 year, so I have the privilege to say all y'all. And I'm just so excited to be with you, and I want to get through this because I have so many slides that I want to share with you folks. And so if I talk too fast, someone just type in, Anthony, you are talking way too fast, all right? So we're going to start with the front slide here. Each one of us has an inherent desire and need to pass down our memory, our wisdom, and our knowledge to future generations. And this has always been a strong desire all across ethnicities, cultures, all across the world. When I was thinking...
Hello?
Hello? And can you all hear me?
We can. I'm sorry that there was just a pause there.
Okay. So as I was creating this presentation, I went back and I thought of 3 pertinent slides that would be really helpful as we get into this presentation about the power of the talk. And Lewis Carroll was one of my favorite authors as a child. And the quote, "Who are you?" said the caterpillar. This was not an encouraging opening for a conversation. Alice replied rather shyly, I hardly know, sir. Just at present, at least I know who I was when I got up this morning, but I think I must have been changed several times since then. And as we deal with our various clients and residents, we need to remember that sometimes that conversation and sometimes that cognitive recognition of our residents is not always 100% there. And I thought that this slide really said a lot about what I wanted to share today. Then I remembered a direct quote that my daughter told me, Dad, next time I'm going to make you listen to me. And in all walks of our life, we need to remember that talking and listening are critical skills. So when we're talking about the power of the talk and reminiscence, we cannot separate talking and listening from each other. Listening to others, especially people that have different viewpoints, which is pretty much 100%, is very difficult for all of us. And then I thought this slide really said a lot to me as I was developing this presentation. Have we truly lost the art of conversation? I did a study, a kind of silent study with my wife. We go out for, after church on Sundays, we go out for Sunday brunch. And the last month, I watched various people as they were sitting at tables at restaurants and just ordering and then eating. And 100% of the people that I watched, and they didn't know I was watching them, were texting or on the telephone during a family meal. And I thought, wow, you really have, there is a gap in this art of conversation. So I think as activity professionals, recreational specialists, we really need to hone in on some skills that really, really work with how we talk to our residents, how we speak, and how we listen to our residents. And then I'm also going outside of the box and including our team members in the community that we work with. As activity professionals, we are key members of the interdisciplinary team, and we are responsible, number one, for providing that quality of life service to each and every resident in our community. So that is the premise of this whole presentation. The art and creativity of reminiscing is readily available to each and every healthcare professional. Every person is unique with incredible life experiences to share. Each one of us have a story that we want to share, something that has purpose and meaning to us. And how fascinating it is to reminisce and explore life experiences and stories, and I love this phrase, that ripple through every aspect of one's life. Because when we have something that's passionate in our heart, we want to share that, and our residents have that. They want to tell their story. They want someone to talk to, someone that will listen to them, and that is so important as activity professionals. Increasingly, since the 1970s, reminiscence with older people has put up a reputation as being a hopeful activity, acknowledging as offering a stimulating social experience. Anne Rainbow is one of the leading researchers in this whole topic of reminiscence, and it's interesting when we think, because we think all reminiscence, one-to-one programming, I'm going to go and do a room visit, and my presentation will get into more of those details, but it's really only been around since 1970 with that official title of reminiscence. So I want each of you, I hope you each have a piece of paper and a pencil with you. I'm just going to give you a moment. If you would jot down what the word hope means to you as an activity profession. If you would just take a few moments to write down what the word hope means to you. I conducted another little research study with some assisted living, independent living, and long-term care communities here in the Las Vegas Valley. And interestingly, I received about 40 answers from various clients and residents from the different living communities. You would not believe how many of them quoted this song from Carousel, You'll Never Walk Alone. If you've never watched the musical of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Carousel, please do, and pay particular attention to the song, You'll Never Walk Alone. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. Our residents are crying out for people to sit and talk to them, to listen to them, to hear their story, to give them some dignity and respect. And that's, again, the premise of the presentation here. I like to envision the whole world as a jigsaw puzzle. If you look at the whole picture, it is overwhelming and terrifying. But if you work on your little part of the jigsaw and know that people all over the world are working on their little bit, that's what gives you hope. And that's a great quote I like from Jane Goodall. I like to think of the whole thing of hope and talking as a declaration of confidence. And it's not only part of our job, but this is the powerful thing about we, the quality of life specialists in all our communities. It's an enormous honor and celebration for us that we are able to share our hope with others. Because when we're sharing our hope, that helps that person be able to open up and share their hope. I wish I could have some of you just type in some of your answers and responses to what you felt hope is. That's that. But I don't think we can do that. Can we, Jackie?
The conference has been unmuted.
Would you rather hear that or just see that?
I agree, Amanda, that hope, the belief that things can and will be better. Absolutely. How strong and positive is that we can promote that into our residents' lives? Very good comment. Is there anyone else who would like to share?
I've opened the line so anyone can share verbally.
Well, I was typing in hope. There is still a chance to receive of my desires and dreams and faith.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing. And that was who?
Juanita.
Thank you, Juanita. I appreciate your kindness for sharing that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So that vivid present of theirs, how faint it grows, that past is only the present becomes invisible and mute, and because it's invisible, its memorial glances and murmurs are infinitely precious. That's from Mary Webb. That's a resident in an assisted living community here in the Las Vegas Valley. When I went out and was talking about how I was going to make this presentation about reminiscence and the power of the talk, and she wanted to make sure that that first sentence, that vivid presence of theirs, how faint it grows, because when a resident is not able to engage in reminiscence, that hope diminishes. Okay, let's be very honest with one another here. How many of you, including myself, would send our team members onto the floor and ask them, I'd like for you to do some room visits today, perhaps 5 to 8 room visits, and I want you to spend about 5 minutes in each room and then come back and chart the visit. And we all know that phrase. If it's not charted, it didn't happen. Just by a shout of yay or nay, how many of you have asked team members to do that?
Nay.
Nay. Good.
The conference has been unmuted.
I would
I
miss
never
too much
have.
fun.
Say that again, please.
I would miss too much fun.
Anne Rainbow again, the one who helped me with this whole research on reminiscence. The process of reminiscence provides a very creative and absorbing means of communicating with our residents. It establishes communication links that are based on recalling the past while bringing meaning, congruence, and enjoyment to elders in the present. So many of us think that and I'm so glad many of you shouted out, May, that 5-minute, and I like to call it the drive-by visit. That 5-minute visit is truly reminiscent, and it really is not once we learn the whole power of the talk. 5 minutes is not enough time to establish that rapport and that good listening, talking relationship that we want with our residents. So I'm so glad many of you shouted out for me. I just want to highlight the last part of this quote. Information gained through reminiscence provides reminders to us that elders have passed through the same life stages that they have experienced or will experience during their lives. And we always have to remember that phrase, they are unique. We are unique. I am unique. Not one of us is the same, and not one of us serves the same with that recreation specialist. So let's stop and think a little bit. How do you feel life should be for older people? So let's think about yourself and the people that you work with. How do you feel life should be for older people? Would someone like to shout out for me, please?
Anthony.
Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Chandrella, as they want it easier. Thank you. Anybody else? So let me move to the second one. Do you view later life as a time of quietness and the avoidance of new experiences? So think of people that you work with on your team, your activity team. Do they view later life as a time for quietness and the avoidance of new experiences? Good. I like that. Trying to create new experiences for the resident. Very good. Very, very good. And the last one I want everyone to start thinking about as we're talking about this topic. What role do we, as the healthcare professional, have in providing opportunities for older people to continue retaining their interests and sociability? What role do we have in providing those opportunities? Okay. The challenge for all of us, promoting social and emotional aspirations of our elders on a daily basis. We must provide opportunities that have purpose, individuality, meaning, and self-esteem. And I believe that Reminiscence does all these things. It provides that opportunity for purpose, a sense of individuality, meaning, and esteem, self-esteem. Many of these opportunities come to us through room visits and reminiscence programs. And this came to me as I was reading the research. I personally like to think of single room visits like a key, that only one well-made key fits that door. It fits exactly. And as I said previously, we cannot use that same key for the residents that live in the next apartment. We have to think of it as a key that's made specifically for that person. An elder's life is like an entire section, I love this, of a library. Their life is filled with volumes and volumes of stories, rich, wonderful experiences, magical moments. When that individual is no longer with us, the magic continues on through conversation and heartfelt memories. Isn't that powerful? When you think about sharing your memories and moments with the residents and they are no longer with us, those memories and moments are still there, and we share them in other stories with other folks, other people. So they're the power of the talk. So most of us are superb conversationalists, but when it comes to reminiscence, we got to remember that other part, the listener, and we all must become superb listeners, one who responds with a vibrant imagination and hope. This in turn helps that elder feel valued for his or her unique experience in life and helps create continuity between who he or she was and who or she is today, merging the present with the future in a positive way. There is oodles and oodles of research out there with reminiscence and talk and listening, and how, again, most of us know how to talk, but most of us truly don't know how to listen. So, we were born with 2 ears and 1 mouth. I like that. So, where's the training? Let's brainstorm. I want everyone to jot down a list of terms or sayings that you've heard in your community that relate to aging, specifically relating to older people. Jot down some terms, words that relate to aging, either positive or negative, and if some of you would post them for me on our chat line.
The conference has been unmuted.
Ah. Very good. Anybody else?
I've unmuted the line, so if anyone wants to share verbally.
Hey, Jackie. Oh, are other people sharing verbally? Can you hear me?
I
yeah, we
can.
Yes.
I can hear
Okay,
you. I haven't been able to hear any other responses.
Me either. I haven't been able to hear other people's. I can hear Anthony saying that was a great comment, but I couldn't hear the comment.
I want everyone
I would be happy to read the people.
Let me interject, everyone. I'll unmute the lines when he asks a question where he wants a lot of feedback. But because there's some folks that won't remember to mute when they're in a public space, I'll have to mute you in order for the recording to go over well, so you can listen to this session later on. So it's unmuted right now. You can share openly, and you can also type in chat. Back to you, Anthony.
Thank you. Some of the comments are superb. Stubborn, feisty, lonely, seasoned, the old gray mare, over the hill, hard of hearing, poor vision. And the negative, more negative, I'm sure many of us have heard old fogey, senile, silly old thing. And that word, and even alternative uses that word, and I'm so proud of that word, the elder. But when we say elderly, I can never forget my mom calling my mother-in-law elderly when she turned 70. and my mother-in-law was offended that someone calls her elderly at age 70. That is just so wrong, and so. But I'm trying to set a stage here, the mindset of the people that we work with, because we never ever truly know unless we sit down and talk with our team. Our feelings and how we feel about that older person, that older resident in our building, how we feel. So we need to have that open dialogue and communication, especially when it comes to this tool of reminiscence. So that's why I'm incorporating this part into our presentation. So we all need this slide. I want you to take it back to your team and sit down and ask them. Talk about words that you associate with aging, and then have a good open discussion with your activity team about those feelings and those strong sentiments. I'm going to skip this one, if I may. Okay, now I want us to be 100% honest with each other, and I'm putting myself on the table as well. Opportunities for promoting older people's sense of individuality are being lost when they are confronted with deep personalizing group living situations. Interesting studies from the Oral History Association, and pretty recent, 2010. Research clearly indicates that reminiscence, that one-to-one basis from Tobin studies and in small groups from Seedland studies, can significantly contribute to the quality of life of older people. That one-to-one reminiscence significantly contributes to the quality of life of older people. And here I'm going to push the boundaries. We as activity professionals need to take that next step and be that spokesperson in our community and help all the other department heads with reminiscence. Provide an in-service, provide a training, be the leader in your building, and take the lead with reminiscence. Because most nurses, and this is not a negative, most therapists, most people up there, the business office, those folks don't have the skills that we have as activity professionals, and we need to share those skills with our departmental team members. But ask yourself, does reminiscence, the power of the talk, really happen in your community every day? Anybody want to share?
I think it happens, but it can happen in a more casual way and not such a structured way. And it's not necessarily a conscious choice. Sometimes you just get caught in the hall, and we'll take that few minutes to meet with somebody and, talk to them for a while. But I think it's tough to say, I'm setting aside this time on Wednesday to go out into the dining room and sit down with, a table or that kind of a thing.
Why do you think that happens to us? That we're not able to sit down and plan and make it part of our daily programming?
I think a lot of times people are trying so hard to, quote, meet their quotas or do the red tape that needs to be done. And so oftentimes, sadly, I think that the relationships that have an opportunity to be built suffer from that.
Very good. Both good points. Both very strong points.
Well, and sometimes you're spending your time planning these events much more so than actually at the event and then engaging with your resident, because you're running around getting supplies or filling drinks, or you're being more of a waitress than a professional who's really connecting with your residents. We do all this fun stuff for them, but then can't really participate with them.
Excellent point. Excellent point. Thank you all for sharing. This I want us all to remember, and the fingers are pointing right back to me, that reminiscence encourages the team to concentrate on the other person's history the other person's personality and needs. And here's the gem in that. It promotes a personhood approach to quality of life practices. So I agree with everything everyone has said, the time limits, the constraints, the running around, meeting the quotas. All of those things are important as department heads, as the department head of the activity department. However, we need to remember that reminiscence and planning it encourages that concentration and that promotes that personhood approach to quality of life. And if we're going to be that quality of life champion that we say we are, we need to make certain that reminiscence is part of our calendaring. Research indicated that it is essential to have a clear appreciation and acceptance of the reasons, and this was interesting by Coleman, that reminiscence is not for everyone. And when I read that, I thought, whoa, that some people are actually distressed by the reminiscence of memories and painful memories. Some people do not see, and I'm speaking about the residents, they don't see value in talking about the past. And some people want to avoid the memories. So this is why it's so important that we delve into this subject, because there are those residents, and we can all say, to this question, that there are residents in our communities that don't want to sit down and talk with them. Does anyone have a story about this one?
Not me personally, but I know my director of chaplaincy runs into that sometimes. You know, she'll go for a visit and really have to keep it more in present tense because discussing the past can be very upsetting.
Very good, yeah.
I sometimes receive, when I do nail care for them, and just the simple act of holding their hand during that time, it becomes much more than just nail care. That's the time that they'll reminisce, or they'll say, it's been a while since my hand has been held. Or they'll share, my spouse held my hand, and things of that nature.
Very good, very good. Thank you, ladies, for sharing that. So Macmillan says that looking back, I've spent too much time, and memories bear fruit among the vines of those yesterdays. There are blossoms, a particular truth on that plant, and its harvest is measured honestly from petal to stem to seed. That's a great quote that you keep in your planner or keep next to you as you're developing activity programming for your residents. Key characteristics of reminiscence. Some of us think that it is just one-to-one. Well, it can be, but it also can be group-based. And I'm going back on someone's comment. They talked about that the spontaneity. It can be spontaneous and informal, and it can be structured and planned. So we can't pigeonhole the topic of reminiscence into the one category that it's just one-to-one. We need to remember it can indeed be group-based. There could be you can do a small reminiscence group. I like how, I believe it was Wendy that shared about the nails and the finger. Was that you, Wendy?
The conference has been unmuted. The conference has been unmuted.
I think Wendy shared that with the nail program, that she was able to move from resident to resident. So there, indeed, that is more of a small group reminiscence program. Yes, indeed, she's calling it nail for ladies or nail for residents, whatever. But she's incorporating reminiscence into the activity program. So we begin. You're like, Anthony, you've given a lot of research. Where do we start? So building a strong foundation requires personal communication. We all need to be aware of this, that conversation involves what you mean, what you are actually saying, what the other person actually hears, what the other person thinks he or she hears, what the other person says about what you said, and what you think the other person said about what you said. You never knew that when you started talking that these things were happening, but they are indeed. The words that come out of our mouth are so important with the communication skills, listening here, the thinking, the listening, the speaking, and the nonverbal. The one that gets me the most is the third bullet in, what the other person actually hears. So you think you're sitting down reminiscing, let's pick the topic of crocheting. You have a resident who absolutely loves crocheting, with care planned, that she enjoys talking about crocheting, but you're talking about crocheting and she is hearing something else. So we need to always be cognizant of these things with personal communication. So the greatest gift we can give each other, indeed, the power of communication. Listening to hear, not listening to speak. Isn't that a powerful statement? That when we're listening, how many of us just inherently know that we're talking with someone, we're engaged in conversation, and we know that other person is not listening to us. They just can't wait to share their talk. So here again, the power of the talk. You cannot take away listening from talking. They need to be equal partners in this whole Reminiscence program. So as the activity professional, you are the lead. You are modeling. You are modeling for the rest of your team members. You go in and absolutely go through a simulated room visit with some of your staff, and have them watch you and have them observe the way true reminiscence happens. That when you're in that room or in that activity great room with the resident or as a small group, that you're showing that you're actively listening to that person speaking, waiting for them to share their thoughts and their experiences, and then appropriately responding back to that person with dignity and respect, showing them that you are listening to what they're saying. Such power in that. Such power. You're important to me. Your opinions are valuable to me. I want to know what's in your heart. I want to hear what you have to say. And I want you to know that I am feeling here with you right now. And I respect you enough. And I like this phrase, to keep my mouth silent and my ears. Because when you're engaged in reminiscence, it is so important to be able to sit there and listen to that other person sharing their thoughts. So here's some interesting facts that I found out dealing with conversation, talking. America, 7 minutes per week conversation between father and child. 7 minutes a week. 27 minutes a week between father and mother. Wow. 7 hours a day here in America, individuals are online and watching television, children. 7 hours a day. 5 hours a day is spent online and watching TV, adults. So I'm going to ask the question again. Have we lost the art of conversation? Anyone?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I agree. Research clearly indicates. But here again, and I'm being the devil's advocate here. So I'm trying to get you to think outside the box, including myself. We say we have reminiscence. We say we have. We go in and we provide that one-to-one room visit. But are we really doing that? Are we? I'm asking you guys.
No, I don't think we are.
Thank you for being honest. Because that's what research says. We're not doing it. We're not doing it. We think we are, but we're not. Now, I will be very honest. I know many recreation activity professionals that true-heartedly do good, solid reminiscence in their department, and they schedule it on their in their activity programming and on the calendar. And they mean that, like that other person says, the census gets in the way. This program gets in the way. This meeting gets in the way. And reminiscence is the first thing that gets cut. It's the first thing that's taken away because we don't think it's as important as that activity program with the large group. So we need to that's why I'm presenting this to us, that we need to think about, do we truly do reminiscence in our community? So here are the stepping stones. And I hope Jackie will be able to share this PowerPoint with you guys. That's why I sent it to you so you can have it. Jackie, will they have this PowerPoint?
Sure. I'll send it out again to the group. Many that attended last week have hard copies of it, but I'll send it again.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jackie. So from the bottom up, gain the background knowledge, decide on the venue, start the date, and the duration of each session. My recommendation, 15 minutes. So set yourself 15 minutes and say to yourself, as the activity director, as the activity professional in the building, I'm going to do 3 reminiscence programs with 3 of my clients during the week. I'm going to start small. I'm going to do 3 15-minute sessions with my residents. If you start small, you're going to be successful. And make it a point to calendar it in your planner. Make it part. That person who you know does not come to activity programs. That person who sits in their room, and that's their choice. They don't get out. They do not socialize. But there, in your heart, you know they want someone to go into their room and just sit down and talk with them. I like the one person who shared just sitting there and holding your hand. And we need to be cognizant of that as well, that holding that hand and just smiling and giving that person that affirmation and that dignity and respect are so important. And that can be a reminiscence program, 15 minutes of just sitting with that person and just smiling. Maybe they cannot speak. Maybe they have the disease of dementia and Alzheimer's. They have different forms of aphasia. And as a professional, we know these things. But I'm going to give you a challenge. Do that. 3 of your clients for the week, 15-minute sessions. Build and collect the artifacts, photos, and music to act as the triggers for the conversation. Plan the time for the evaluation, the supervision, and feedback to your team. That is so critical. You want to always remember that you want to go back and share with your team what happened. And then plan the reminiscence program for the first session, including themes and triggers. I learned this trick from a very, very dear colleague, and I'm going to share it with you folks. Once you know something that is a good trigger with reminiscence with a specific resident, I know many communities hang the activity calendar in each person's room. On the back of that activity calendar, just jot down some positive triggers that person loves or helps. Animals, specifically a Shih Tzu, a Siamese cat. Be specific. They love okra and macaroni and cheese. Those are triggers that get that person talking and being able to start the reminiscence process. So on the back of that activity calendar, I know we do that in our participation notes and our care plans and all that. But sometimes, like one person shared, we're constantly moving and on the run. And if all of our team knows and we're in sync that that activity professional wrote some positive triggers on the back of that calendar, how wonderful is that? That we don't always have to run back to the computer and look at the care plan. It makes it that much easier. Using triggers that appeal to one or more different senses that prompt the remembrance, the more specific and personal the trigger, the greater it is that promotes the memory. I'm skipping down a bit. Memories are vivid and enable individuals to be transported back to another time. How wonderful. And we need to be cognizant again that not all recollections are happy, that life is a mixture, and we all know that of happy, sad, and ordinary times. If you have not purchased this book for your community, you need to do it. Jolene Breakey's Creating Moments of Joy. She says, they may not understand the words that come out of your mouth, but they might understand what you put in their hands. We need to give them back their stuff. And that is such a strong factor in reminiscence when we go into that room and let's say we're talking about watercolor, and that person was a watercolor artist, and we have a watercolor painting, maybe a family member provided for us, and we bring that back. That's an actual something that they can look at and see and have in their hands. So important in the reminiscence process. Be prepared to give time to respond to prompts. Rephrase questions if necessary. We're so anxious to talk and we just don't forget that sometimes, and I'm going to wait a minute here, silence is golden. There's nothing wrong with moments of silence. Jolene calls it creating moments of joy. There's absolutely nothing wrong when we do reminiscence when there are moments of silence. Jackie's going to share this slide with you, and I encourage you, each of you, to look at this specific slide and then do a personal mapping activity with your residents. And this can be done as a large group activity. It just helps gain more information. The more information we have about that resident, the better the reminiscence is going to be. And have them do a personal mapping of their life, where they lived, whatnot. And it's a great art activity as well. I encourage you to incorporate that into your activity calendar. People and listening to people may become more important than maintaining present policies and prevailing regimens where the first priority is physical care. I did this in a assisted living. I did this presentation in northern Nevada, and afterward the director of nursing came up to me and said, Anthony, you have a lot of guts. And I said, well, why is that? Well, you know nursing homes are primarily for quality of care. And I thought, okay, well, here you go, Anthony. You can put the proof to the pudding here, because I opened our session with, we are key team members of the interdisciplinary team. We are just as important as the director of nursing, the director of physical therapy. We are activity professionals, and we need to promote quality of life. And when and I hate to use that word nursing home, I'd like to say our community. You've heard me say community a lot in this presentation. Every community needs to know that quality of life is equal to quality of care. And again, being the champion of that quality of life, we need to be the leaders in the talking and the listening, that reminiscence with our residents. I think I've hit this one already. These are great communication tips, and I know I'm getting to the end, so I want to leave it open to some questions. These are some great reminiscence communication tips. You'll have the PowerPoint. Then there's the value statements that are so important. I encourage each of you to do this with by yourself and then with your team members. It's a great learning activity for you. And then take it beyond your team and then use it with a resident, moving to the resident. Think about a person that's in your care and recalling these specific things. So this helps you with that stepping stone slide that I shared with you, building your reminiscence program, and then writing the 4 value statements on behalf of that resident. The value statements was the 2 previous slides prior to. I'm going to jump to this, and I'm going to go real fast because I want to answer some of your questions. This is a great, we do memory boxes. I encourage you to do a reminiscence box with your residents. And in my reminiscence box is my lovely wife, my lovely daughter, my lovely Nantucket leather lazy boy chair that's part of my daily experiences. Our lovely dog Sugar, my favorite doll as a child, my Beanie from Beanie and Cecil. My favorite poem, The Road Not Taken, and this is a beautiful painting that someone did for me on that poem. And then if someone is going to sit down and talk to Anthony and have a reminiscence with Anthony, they better know that I love my roses. And I carefully, and you would not believe that roses grow here in the desert. But they do, and I'm real proud of my roses. I encourage you to do a reminiscence box and have that with your residents as well. And then you can have it in their room or in the activity room locked up in a private place. But that is so important. Blessed is that person who comes up to me and tells me his name first and reminds me of some experience we have shared. Usually this kind of approach on their part suddenly triggers a flow of memory that is almost impossible for me to recall by just reaching into the blank. And here again, just sharing those moments of joy with one another. When you affirm their conversation, whether you understand it or not, you are more likely to go into a meaningful conversation that you do understand. I love that quote, a son's advice. Life is like photography. You develop from the negative. Sometimes it's going to be tough. Sometimes that reminiscence is not going to work, and you learn from that. And then I'd like to end with this little poem that I wrote and has just meant so much to me, and I want to share it with you. Here's to the elder who's different, the one who doesn't always fit in, whose ears are twice the size of his tears, or nose that goes on for days. Here's to the elder who's different, the one who is always just out of step, the one everybody teases, and whose nose is always wet. Here's to the elders who are different, the ones with a mischievous streak, for when they are grown, as history has shown, it's their differences that make them unique. And we need to remember that their differences make them unique. It is a powerful tool, reminiscence. I encourage you to make it a daily program in your activity department. Take the lead as that activity professional. You and your residents deserve it. I'm open for questions.
Okay, all lines are unmuted.
Okay, I have a question. So part of what you had said earlier is, and what I see the value in, is the one-on-one and making the time to do that. But are there some activities that are more group that, like, how do you balance inclusion but at the same time making it a valuable experience for those who came? Do you see what I'm trying to ask?
Yes, I understand. So let's take a topic. You would, of course, you would be surveying your residents for their interests. So let's say, let's take an example from your community. Give me something that several of your folks are interested in.
We've really been into adult coloring books lately. It's
Adult
the whole community is all about it right now.
There is some great research right out now about how effective adult coloring and coloring books are. And there was a time where no one wanted, if they saw coloring, they thought, golly gee, we're not going to do that's a childlike activity. But truly it is not, and the research is indicating all the points to that. So I'm glad you brought that up. So I would definitely do a small group, and you call it what you want. Put it on your calendar, and I would definitely then put out all the materials and invite those that want to come and talk about what kinds of colors those folks like. What do they like to color? And engage them in memories of their childhood. What coloring books did they enjoy coloring? What are their favorite characters to color? You could have a wonderful reminiscence on that subject. Did that help answer your question?
Yeah, that's a really great approach. Thank you.
You're very
One
welcome.
of the things that I do is many of our elders miss being able to be in the kitchen and miss being able to bake. So I have this giant cooking oven that's like an adult version of a easy bake oven, and I get the sugar-free cookie dough and put it in there. So not only are they going to show up for the reminiscing, but then they have this smell for that sensory, and then they're able to, as it's baking, we start talking about things from that they themselves baked, and oftentimes, like this past week when we did it, it brought up memories of their grandmother or memories of an aunt. And so everyone started talking, and then they started sharing recipes, and it became what started out to be a 45-minute session became an hour and 15-minute session.
Good for you, Wendy. I'm going to push you, because that's what I'm here for. I'm here to provide you with further strategy. I'm going to push you further. Now, select a resident to be the featured chef for the month, and have them get up and do the demonstration with you if they can do it by themselves or they need assistance, and you have them do their favorite recipe. There's a great research book out there. It's called 3-in-1 Cookbook. Three ingredients making something, and I've used that as an activity director in a long-term care community, and it was most successful. And cooking, the smell, the touch, the taste, wonderful tools for reminiscence. Good job.
And that's what the theme for National Assisted Living Week is, nourishing the body, mind, and soul. Yeah. And so for those of you that are assisted living coming up in September, the suggestion that Anthony's used about having like a celebrity chef kind of thing would be good also during that week.
Awesome.
Making good friends with the community dietitian is essential for the activity professional.
Absolutely.
Anybody else?
We have a little treasure box of cards that help to start conversations, and we have a reminiscing club that meets once a week, but it fluctuates as to who attends, and we can start off with the conversation meaning it to go one way, and it totally takes other routes. But as long as I tell our volunteers, as long as they're opening and they're sharing and they're communicating, they're getting to know each other, then that's all part of it. So we do have a little treasure box of like little business-sized cards that have little questions and topics to sort of kickstart our conversation.
Good. Excellent.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
This is Laura Jones. we're independent living, and I have a huge whiteboard rolling computer. And one of our fun activities has been to go on Google Earth and look up someone's address, the place they grew up. And quite often we can see some of them the house they grew up in. We can go around the neighborhood and see their church, their school. And that's just the most wonderful experience for them.
That is wonderful, Laura.
That's a great idea.
That is a great idea that we could also incorporate into assisted animation. I had the pleasure of working in CCRC as the director of leisure, and that was the most difficult group for me, those independent residents. But let me tell you, they loved when we led Reminiscence groups, and what a wonderful way to integrate technology into Reminiscence. Thank you for sharing that. That's powerful.
They're only disappointed when there's a Walmart in their former
Isn't that, oh my goodness, there 40 of them signed up for that trip. You're right. That is great. I want to urge each of you, because each of you need to take the leadership role here. CMS, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid, has sent out they're looking at some revisions to activity recreation specialists. And I just urge each of you to go on that website and just look at the revisions that they're proposing, and if you can, make some good positive comments about what you do each and every day to meet that quality of life for your residents. It's so important to our profession. And we need, again, I'm going to say that we need to take that leadership role. We need to be that champion for the quality of life. So if each of you would do that, I would greatly appreciate it. It's the CMS website, cms.gov.
What are those letters again?
C as in Charlie, M as in Michael, S as in Sam, .gov, G-O-V.
Thank you.
You are welcome. I have had a blast. I hope I've been able to share some great stuff with you folks. I wish I could see your faces.
Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you.
It's been my pleasure. It's been my pleasure. I hope I get invited
The conference
back.
has been unmuted.
I hope I get invited back and get to share some other stuff with you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Anthony, fantastic, and I know that we'll be touching base again. Well, everybody, have a wonderful rest of this week, and remember to jot down September 16th for our next gathering of GAP members, and we have on mental health and dementia, as well as we are looking forward to August 27th for the Culture Change Summit, and we do have a few scholarships available for that particular summit, and I know some of you probably would find it very interesting because many of the speakers are going to be speaking your language and talking about Alive Inside and the use of music as a window of opportunity for reminiscence. So,
how do we contact you about maybe a scholarship to the Culture Change?
Just email it to me.
Okay.
And anyone who doesn't have my email address, I'll give it to you really quickly. It's jthornton@leadingagega.org. So that's JTHORNTON@leadingagega.org. Before we leave, I'd like for Anthony, could you give them your email address or contact information in case they want to reach out to you?
Of course. Shall I type it in the chat box?
Fantastic.
Okay, here it goes.
So as Anthony's doing that, any last questions or information anyone wants to share? Wendy, do you or Laura have anything that you want to share in terms of GAP?
I
I
do not.
appreciate Anthony and everybody else, and also if you were in attendance at the meeting on the 15th and you jotted down some of the wonderful words that Scott wrote on the board for us to come up with our mission statement, if y'all would please send your suggestions in for that.
And you can send that to my email account, and I will forward it on to the rest of the GAP leadership team.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you, Anthony.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you. Have a
Bye-bye.
good weekend.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you.